I am 23 years old. I was at the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services when I personally experienced mistreatment by the very staff who are supposed to keep us safe and help us. While I was there, I was treated without respect and basic dignity. Staff spoke to me harshly, ignored me when I asked for help. They acted like my safety and well-being didn't matter. At times I feel physically unsafe and emotionally abandoned. I was made to feel like my voice didn't matter and that I was less of a human. When I went through what was just not unfair, it was just traumatizing. At 23 years old, I know my rights and I know that no one should be treated the way I was treated. DYRS is supposed to be a place of rehabilitation and support that come first, but what experience was the opposite. We also live in fear of retaliation from DYRS staff. Speaking up about what happens behind the doors can make us targets for more mistreatment. No one should have to choose between their safety and telling the truth about abuse. I also thought about the younger people in DYRS. My bad, y'all. I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good. Take your time.
It's a little soft talking. I also thought about the younger youth in DYRS custody. Many of them teenagers who are too scared to speak up. If this is how I was treated as an adult, I can only imagine how frightening it must be for them. The DC City Council needs to step up and hold DYRS accountable. They must ensure the staff are properly trained, that youth are protected, and that no one is ever ignored or neglected or mistreated in their care. Staff who are under investigation for harming or mistreating youth should be immediately suspended to protect the safety of the children and young adults in DYRS custody. Without firm action, this cycle of abuse and fear and retaliation will continue. I'm speaking out because I want accountability and real change in DYRS. The way I was treated was wrong, and no one else, especially young people, should have to go through the pain, fear, humiliation that I experienced.
We hear next from Katie from the DC Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Katie, and I am here as a community member and an executive member of the DC Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. On behalf of our organization, we condemn, in the strongest possible terms, the actions of Kelvin Powell and demand immediate accountability from the district in the form of independent oversight and review. This despicable, deplorable behavior is just one snapshot of the multitude of documented rape and sexual abuse cases that have been perpetrated by DC detention center staff and especially against transgender individuals. That this abuse was allowed to continue over the span of several months from December 2021 to February 2022 by the Department of Youth and Rehabilitation Services demonstrates an objective lack of preventative measures and raises serious concerns about the safety of DYRS facilities. Bringing Powell into custody while being the least the district can do does nothing to ensure this type of behavior is curbed and impeded in the future. The DC Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression is launching a campaign for community control of the police to give the people, the communities of DC, power over who polices them and how they are policed. The solution for DC jails and DYRS is no different. Only independent oversight creates true accountability and preventability to protect our youth now and in the future. In an act of cowardice and complicity, our city councilors voted to suspend funding for this project and an independent oversight board for another year. Shame on you!
Shame!
Denying oversight is denying justice, not just for this case, but for countless others, and fails the leagues of your own constituents that demand this board. This press conference today is only the first step of a fight that we are willing to take to the City Council to demand accountability from the district and pursue true justice in the face of reprehensible behavior and negligence from our elected leadership. We say no justice, no peace.
No
No
justice,
justice, no peace.
Thank you.
And next we'll have Frankie from Harriet's Wildest Dreams. Oh, mama, mama, can't you see?
Mama, mama, can't you see
What the system do to me?
what the system do to me?
They lock us up, they shoot us down.
They lock us up, they shoot us down.
Ain't no justice in this town.
Ain't no justice in this town.
Ain't no justice in this
Ain't
town.
no justice in this town.
Ain't no justice in this town.
Ain't no justice in this town.
Our children are not political prisoners. Our children are not political prisoners. But this is what happens to them every time systems of punishment deem them as unworthy to be in society, as unworthy, and they push them into these systems. Every system of punishment in Washington, D.C. has failed our children. YSC has failed our children. Superintendent Lyles has failed our children. DYRL continues to fail our children, and council has failed our children. $12 million, say 12 million.
12 million.
12 million
12 million.
is what they just put into DYRS budget for next fiscal year. And to that we say shame.
Shame.
DC cannot fund abuse of our children. DC cannot fund the beating of our black bodies, because we know that our black children are being funneled through this system, and we say shame.
Shame.
We call for accountability all the way from the top to the bottom. Get rid of every single guard, every single person who puts a finger, lays a hand on our children. Our children are not political prisoners. It is our duty as a city, as parents, as activists, as advocates to protect our children. They say, well, who's going to protect DC from the youth? I ask, who is going to protect the youth from the state?
That's right.
Who is going to protect our youth from the state?
That's right.
So we stand here, Harriet's Wildest Dreams, in solidarity with every youth in this city. Every single one, because what they need is love. What they need is resources. What they need is the ability to thrive, and not more jails, not more curfews, not more things that are going to funnel them into systems where they are beaten, where their jaws are broken, where they're sexually abused. It has to stop. It has to stop. As a parent of a 16-year-old, as a parent of a teenager here in Washington, D.C., it is a shame the way we treat our children.
Shame. Shame.
And this curfew, I will say, youth curfew is just going to exacerbate this issue. Do you know what happens when they pick them up past curfew in these designated zones? They go to YSC to be berated in the same system. Thank you.
My name is Bernadette Armand. I am an attorney, also filing this claim against the city and YSC for the harms done to our client who was sexually assaulted and abused there, and other children who've been harmed in that environment. We're here behind and standing with the children who are standing up. Children like DeAndre, children like our client, who have found the courage to stand up and deal with their abuse and fight the abuse and fight the people who would put them in that situation. We have to be just as courageous as the children. We have to prop them up and fight for them and advocate for them. And that's what we are doing today, and that's what we are doing with our lawsuit in this case. The kids had demands. Young people today are not afraid to stand up and call out abuse. And they're not afraid to call out the city, the agencies, and the people who have failed them, and we are not afraid either. We are not going along with the status quo that makes our children victims of abuse, makes them available for harassment and assault. In this case, a man was caught on camera sexually harassing a young girl, but they never bothered to check the cameras. Or they checked the cameras and they didn't care. And as a lawyer, and as a mother, and as a citizen of this community, I say shame.
Shame!
Our client was caught in the halls by a guard who was sexually harassing her on camera in an open hallway. The city, DYRS, left him alone in the hallway with the young girl. Shame.
Shame!
Our client was locked in a cell. And then a predator was given the keys to that cell. Shame.
Shame!
As a part of our lawsuit against DYRS and YSC and Kelvin Powell, we demand policies and protocols. We demand policies and protocols that require training on sexual abuse reporting and investigation. We demand proper supervision of guards who have access to our young girls and boys. We demand adequate staffing so people like Kelvin Powell can't be left alone in the halls and in cells with people like our client. We demand independent monitoring. Monitoring not by the city, not by DYRS monitoring itself, but outside monitoring, independent, into the conditions these children are living in, into the city's failures, the agency's failures to keep them safe. And we demand compensation for our client who was harmed by Kelvin Powell because the city and DYRS gave him open access to her. We demand compensation for all of our clients who have been harmed by the city. And we say shame.
Shame!
On behalf of Paige White and myself, Bernadette Armand, I'm happy to take any questions on the lawsuit or any of the work we have going forward.
Is Mr. Powell the only one y'all have on camera going into the cells of people there?
Mr. Powell is the person we have on camera now going into the cells with our client, and that's why we're demanding a full investigation, because the recordings are there. They're all on camera. It's about putting the resources to reviewing those cameras to see who has been acting inappropriately with young people and who has been getting away with this over the years. We're here today because Kelvin Powell was on camera and he was convicted last month of raping our clients. Right here in this courthouse, he was convicted. That's giving our clients and the community the courage to stand up and say, this happened, and we are here to fight about it.
Commonplace for male guards to be left alone with female or young teenage girls.
It's our understanding that that is not supposed to be happening in the facility, but as we discussed in the lawsuit, Kelvin Powell was left alone with our client on multiple different occasions, and he frequently came onto the girls' unit and was the only guard there.
We have hours and hours of footage of Kelvin Powell being left alone with our client, the young teen, having the opportunity to be alone with her in her cell, in hallways, in open offices, in empty classrooms, where he took advantage of that and took advantage of her. We have another question?
You mentioned that the individual has been convicted of the abuse towards your client. Is it your understanding that other individuals at DYRS that worked there were aware of what was happening?
Yes. That's our understanding. We lay out in the lawsuit that it's our understanding that Mr. Powell was known for having inappropriate contact with the children, that there were staff members that knew and have seen footage of him interacting with other children, both inside and outside of the facility.
Has UIRS up until this point been response to any of the demands or requests you guys have made for changes in policy?
No, they have not. They've actually denied liability.
Have they reached out to the victim's family at all?
No, they have not.
And I know you mentioned that. Has your client mentioned how many other victims she believes there may be just from what she noticed or saw in person?
DYRS, the city, has said they are not liable for what happened. They take no responsibility for what happened to our client in their facility. Our client and other children who were housed at DYRS facilities have spoken to the abuse they have seen there, they have seen for themselves, and that other children have come to them and reported as having experienced in that facility. As we've made it clear in our lawsuit, Kelvin Powell had a reputation and a history for assaulting young girls over the years. Yet he was allowed to keep working there and keep having access to people like our client. And that's why she was abused. And that's why she was assaulted.
There are other victims that later see this video or hear about this case and want to tell their stories. Is there a way that they can reach or access you to share what they've experienced in life?
If there are children who have been housed at YRC or DYRS or in a city facility, or once were housed there, or parents who have learned about these kinds of acts of abuse, they should contact Bernadette Armand Law and give us that information and that testimony so we can follow up. And they should contact E. Page White Law as well, so that we can add that to our investigation, hear their story, take it seriously, and hold the agencies and the cities accountable for their misconduct.
We also have a landing page of epwlawpllc.com/DCU jail for all victims and parents of victims to fill out.
Do you know how long Mr. Powell was working there, and did he have any red flags on his employee record?
Mr. Powell was working at DYRS for years, and he had lots of red flags.
Can you go into detail what any of those red flags are?
Other guards and other people in the facility who knew that he was reaching out and having inappropriate contacts with children, both inside the facility and after they had been released. There was testimony in our client's case from a former person who had been harassed by him. Kelvin Powell had reached out to her outside of YSC and tried to pick her up off the street and give his number and spend time with her outside of YSC while she was still in DYRS custody, so that he could sexually assault her and use her for sexual favors. And by the time our client was housed at YSC, DYRS knew that. And they let him have access to her for months at a time, during which she was raped and assaulted.
How is your client doing now? And are any of her family or friends here by chance?
Our client in this lawsuit against DYRS and the city for her sexual assault is showing a lot of courage. She's showing more courage than many of the adults involved in these institutions are showing, because she's speaking out and she's demanding justice. And she's putting herself out there and putting herself at risk in order that justice can be done for her and for other people who are in her position and shouldn't be in her position.
What do you guys see reform as? Is it changing leadership? Is it changing policy? Is it perhaps oversight of some sort, federal involvement?
So it's gonna have to be a situation where change comes from the top to the bottom. This is an agency that is so broken, so understaffed, has failed its children on every level. I don't think that this is switching out one or two guards. I think that this is cleaning house, starting with new leadership. I think that's starting with new leadership, hiring new people, giving them resources, paying them what they should be paid. having adequate staff, training, supervising. It is not, this is an institutional, systemic problem. And this agency is rotten to its core.
Question. How does this situation speak to the city's treatment of young people, particularly those who are on the margins?
This situation is a perfect example of how the city treats young people, especially those on the margins. Kids on the margins are the ones most likely to be victimized because perpetrators know that no one's going to believe these kids, or worse, no one's going to care about these kids. So they are most at risk, and they are most easily targeted by people who would like to take advantage of children. And that's why they need our support the most. And that's why they need our attention today, and they need litigation, and they need community support to demand changes and attention to what they're going through in this community.
Quick follow-up, if you don't mind. What are the ideal accountability measures, moving forward? I know you mentioned the top down, but in a situation like this, what would be the
There are known standards and protocols for keeping children safe. Our demands aren't complicated. Use the known protocols and standards to keep our children safe. If you're going to take responsibility for housing and holding and detaining children in a locked facility where they can't leave, you better take all the same responsibility and effort into making sure they are safe in that institution. There are known standards. There are experts. There are independent monitors who are in a position to train guards, train the staff, and train the leaders of these institutions on how to keep children safe. It's a question of political will and them knowing that we demand as a community that these standards are held up for the kids who are most vulnerable in this community.
By any chance, has there been any engagement, just trying to look at any engagement with the DC Council, particularly Councilmember Parker, who has oversight of DYRS?
Well, you can speak to what you said with DYRS just defunded the engineering monitor.
No, there's been none, but the DC Council just sent a very strong message by denying the independent monitor, the Office of Juvenile Justice Facility Oversight, another year of funding. So they have sent us a message, or they've sent the community a message that this does not, DYRS doesn't need oversight. I think Council Member Brooke Pinto mentioned that DYRS has ample oversight. Mayor Bowser has said that DYRS is a fantastic agency. And so I think that our government is gaslighting us at this point into believing that the things that are not happening in this facility or the things that are happening in this facility are not real, and that the agency that is tasked with protecting our children are doing so, and they are not.
A bit similar to what you just said, now that it's been confirmed in a court of law that DYRS hired a grown man who did this horrific thing to children there at the facility, what has DYRS or Washington, D.C. done to take accountability, and what steps has Washington, D.C. and DYRS taken to assure the public that these horrific actions are not going to continue?
Zero.
Shame. Shame.
Shame. Zero is what we have heard from the city since this conviction of Kelvin Powell came through. Zero is the support that our client has gotten from DYRS since its conviction came through last month. The answer is zero.
In Washington, D.C.?
Zero. There's been zero communication except to say that they are not liable.
Pardon me for asking, is this like a class action?
Not yet.
Not yet. But again, we have opened an investigation into the Youth Services Center. We currently represent multiple other clients who have been seriously assaulted at that facility. Again, a client who may lose their eyesight, another client whose jaw was broken in the facility. And again, the reports that we have received are that guards at the facility knew that these assaults were going to happen and failed to protect our children. And so we are certainly looking into that possibility.
Are we talking like a dozen, less than a dozen? How many, if you will?
At this point, it's less than a dozen, but again, we haven't. That's right. That's right. But we have just started our digging, and what I believe that we will find many more.
We're asking anyone who's been hurt at a DC facility to reach out to us and contact us and let us know what your experience was, and join the other young people who are having the courage to step up and fight against their abusers and demand more for themselves and each other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out today. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Yep.
Give me our first and last names to be the reporter.
Elizabeth Page White.
Bernadette Armand. Just really want to thank DeAndre, a young person who's been through.
Yes, thank you, DeAndre.
A young person who has been through the terrible experiences that kids go through at YSC, and just thanking him for coming out and speaking up, knowing the courage it takes to do that. Thank you so much, DeAndre. It's children like this who give us the courage to stand up and do what we do.
That's right.
Thank you, guys.
You need the honor room?
Oh.
You need the honor? You coming to, yeah, Cleveland. That's all right. I understand. Yeah,
You're a professional capacity, so step up. You're in your professional capacity.
Yeah, I literally forgot. I would have been dressed up more, but I was like, then I like checked your location. I was like, oh, and you were like, let me go. That's 10 minutes from work. So I was like, okay. Yeah, no, it wasn't that.